So today, girls, we're going to move on to page 135, and I'm starting at the top, as a guest. As a guest, Parvana was given the best spot in the dark one-room house. She sat on the thickest mat on the floor and drank the tea the man's wife brought her. The tea was weak, but its warmth soothed her. "We lost our son," the woman said. "He died of a sickness, like two of our daughters. Maybe you could stay here and be our son?" "I have to find my family," Parvana said. "You have family besides your father?" "My mother, my older sister Nuria, my younger sister Mariam, and my baby brother Ali." Parvana saw them in her mind as she spoke their names. She wanted to cry again. She wanted to hear her mother tell her to do her chores, or Nuria say something bossy, or feel the little one's arms around her. "I have family in many places too," the woman said. She was about to say more when some neighbour men came into the house. She quickly took her burqa down from the nail, put it over her head, and fetched the men some tea. Then she sat in a corner, quiet and faceless. The men sat on the mats along the walls and looked at Parvana. They had been at the graveside. "Do you have other family somewhere?" one of them asked. Parvana repeated their names. It was easier the second time. So we're going to turn to page 136, girls. And I'm starting at the top of the page. Are they in Pakistan? "Are they in Pakistan? I don't know where they are," Parvana said. "My father and I travelled from Kabul to look for them. They went to Mazar-e-Sharif for my sister's wedding, but the Taliban took over the city, and now I don't know where they are. My father and I spent the winter in a camp north of Kabul. He was ill then, but when spring came, he thought he was well enough to continue." Parvana did not want to talk about her father's growing weakness. For days it seemed as though he would die, while they walked alone through the Afghan wilderness. When they arrived at the village, he just could not go any further. For so long now they had been wandering from village to village, from temporary settlement to larger camps for people displaced by the war. There were times on the journey when his cough and his weariness were so bad he could not leave the lean-to. There was never much food, but sometimes he was even too tired to eat what there was. Parvana would scramble through the camp, desperately searching for things that would tempt her father to eat, but often she would come back to the lean-to empty-handed. She did not speak to these men of those times. She also did not tell them that her father had been in prison, arrested by the Taliban, and for being educated in England. "I have to find my family. That is important," one of the men said, "but it is not safe for you to wander around Afghanistan on your own. You will stay here. You can continue your search when you are grown." Up to the top of page 137. Weariness hit Parvana like a tank. "I will stay," she said. Suddenly she was too tired to argue. Her head slouched down on her chest, and she felt the woman in the house lay her down and cover her chest with a blanket, and cover her with a blanket. Then she fell asleep. Parvana stayed in the village for another week. She piled rocks on her father's grave and tried to become brave enough to leave.